Alright, so. Well, that was one hell of a finale. I will be going over, how I feel about the entire show after the finale, how I feel about the finale itself. But before we get into any of that, I just want to give you guys a spoiler warning. I am going to be spoiling the entire show now. If you aren't caught up, make sure you do that now. If you want to, go ahead and watch my videos. It'll get you caught up on my theories and, what I thought going along throughout the whole series. Don't forget to leave a like. It definitely helps out the channel. And without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I want to go over is the little theory I have about recaps in general. I can pretty much call what's going to happen throughout an episode by just kind of paying attention to the recap, because a recap pretty much just tells you everything that's going to be relevant to that specific episode. It's not exactly that way for every show, but it definitely has been for this one. Because as much as I hate to say it, the recap kind of gave away everything we were going to get in this episode. Just from what it tells you alone, we can tell that we're going to get something to do with the runes that were brought up in the last episode, something to do with Pietro, something to do with, how Wanda created Vision, something to do with Photon, getting her powers. She's probably going to use her powers in this episode. And we see, that something about, Wanda turning into the villain. There's kind of some, foreshadowing of that, because I'll get into my theories later, but I think she could still kind of be the villain in Doctor Strange 2. And then, we also see the flickers of the Scarlet Witch costume. And, all of those things pretty much come into play in this finale. So getting into the actual episode, this one starts right where the last one left off. Agatha's holding the kids by those, kind of magic threads, and Wanda is sitting there, getting ready to fight. And Wanda says, you realize I can use my powers out here, right? The runes aren't affecting me. And Agatha, she's counting on it. She is actually wanting to drain her powers straight out of Scarlet Witch with every blow that she throws at her. The one question I do have, though, is if her plan the whole time was to just take her powers and, she wasn't going to get affected as she got blasted by it, why take her through all of that stuff in the last episode? Was it just for us so we could see, the setup to this episode? Or I thought about it, maybe she was just making sure that it was actually what she thought it was, that it was actually chaos magic, and that she was for sure the Scarlet Witch. So as Agatha, she's trying to kind of make a deal and get Wanda to give her powers. She says, I'll let you keep, this little corner of the world to yourself. Then boom, gets smacked with a car. And this is where we get our first reference in this episode. We actually see her boots are laying kind of under the car, just kind of sticking out from them. And it's clearly a Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch is Dead reference. So that's a pretty cool nod. But right as Wanda's taking all this in, she's trying to figure out, where is Agatha, though? All of a sudden, White Vision shows up because you see his reflection in the window that she's looking at. And, she turns around, she's like, Vision? Is that you? And he walks up and he says, Wanda, and it's definitely Paul Bettany's voice, so that rules out the Ultron theory. It doesn't rule it out, but right there, it shows that it isn't Ultron in his body, at least not currently. And he's kind of caressing her face, and then all of a sudden he grabs it and he just starts to try to crush her head completely. Then boom, the regular Vision shows up, and he just slams into him, drags him down into the sidewalk. And I swear I've seen that somewhere else, but for the life of me, I can't remember what movie it's from. If y'all know where that's been, where somebody kind of drags somebody through that, let me know. I can't remember. Let me know in the comments. But once he throws White Vision out of there, he comes back. He tells Wanda, I know what's going on. It's fine. But can you fix it? Do you think you really can? He seems kind of concerned that she's not going to be able to. But she says she can, and she says, this is our home. And so he agrees. Let's fight for it. And he flies off to fight White Vision, and she flies off to fight Agatha. And when she does, we finally see where Monica and Pietro are. She's being held, in Agatha's house. She's in there, Wanda, banging against the window. And Pietro just seems to kind of be on guard duty. Because Monica tries to escape, he's like, nope, gets right in front of her with his super speed, and then he goes, ding, and just blows her across the room. But then we cut to Vision and White Vision fighting, and regular Vision, he's like, is there any way we can, resolve this peacefully? And White Vision just goes straight for the Mind Stone. And regular Vision, he's like, oh, well, I guess that's a no then. He phases through, and, you know, they start phasing into each other and slam each other down, and, you know, it's a whole cool little fight. But it made me think, why didn't he try that with Thanos? I mean, I'm sure that Thanos could have probably stopped him from phasing through with the gauntlet, but why didn't he at least try? But anyway, while they're fighting, we actually see that Hayward is trying to control him from the outside, you know, keep him under sword control and, you know, give him orders and everything. And Wu is actually there. And, you know, of course he's handcuffed, he's in custody, but he uses his, you know, kind of misdirection to distract Hayward while he grabs a phone. And Hayward seems to think, you know, he's pretty much in the clear and, you know, he's all good. He actually even says to Wu, you just need more vision. Like, what an asshole. But then Wu says he's got people from Quantico coming inside the hour. And, you know, Hayward thinks he's bluffing, but he's still pretty worried, you can tell. So they pretty much start to, you know, pack up, get the hell out of there before, you know, they get caught or anything. And they throw Wu off to the side. Well, because of the fact that he's learned all this magician stuff, he's able to get the handcuffs off. You know, he says, flourish. It's pretty great. And then he actually calls his guys from Quantico and says, hey, I need you here in the hour. Because, I mean, fortunately, he was bluffing. But, I mean, I think we all secretly knew that. Then Wanda's walking through the streets, and we see, you know, she's still looking for Agatha. And all of a sudden, you know, we see the mailman pass. And again, he says the same line from the first episode. Don't shoot. I'm just a messenger. And funnily enough, he's actually in a van that says Presto on the side of it. But more importantly, here's where Agatha actually shows up. And she says, you know, there's a whole chapter in the Darkhold, which is the Book of the Damned, devoted to Scarlet Witch. And, you know, Scarlet Witch, she's trying to deny it. She's trying to be like, you know, no, I'm not a witch. Nobody taught me magic. I don't cast spells. But Agatha's saying, you know, that she's basically the Sorceress Supreme, that her power exceeds the Sorcerer Supreme, and that it's basically her destiny to destroy the world. And to prove it, she basically takes everybody out from under the spell and you know, lets them free to just, like, crowd Wanda and just, like, completely freak her out. Pretty much just attacking her with all of her guilt over this whole town. Something I did notice in this part is that Dottie mentions that her name is actually Sarah, so we finally know who Dottie is, but we didn't get a last name, and there are a lot of different Sarahs in Marvel, so who do you guys think it is? Let me know what y'all think in the comments. I'd really like to hear y'all's theory. But so then we get this next scene, and this next scene, I'm not gonna lie, I felt pretty insulted by the next thing that happens because we finally get to find out who Ralph is. And it turns out it's Evan freaking Peters, man. So I have a few problems with this. The biggest thing is, I mean, this is the Ralph we've all wondered about this whole time? Like, really? What a letdown. Like, I was expecting Ralph to be some crazy character or crazy being or thing that, you know, no one would have seen coming. I mean, I guess nobody would have seen it coming for it to be him, but it's because, you know, I mean, that's supposed to be a version of Pietro. And, I mean, he could be the guy in Witness Protection and could still technically be Pietro, but if that's the case, why didn't Wu recognize him whenever they saw him, you know, show up in the first place? And, I mean, either way, even if he's not in Witness Protection, if he is or not, but why didn't Wanda know that he was there? Why wasn't Wanda aware of him? She's aware of having a spell on every single person in this town, every single product, every single thing. She has, you know, like, down to the tiniest detail from the moment she got there. So it stands to reason that Pietro, or, well, Ralph, would have been, you know, one of those townspeople, and she would have known he was there, because we see when Agatha shows up that the place is already under its spell. She says herself that the spell, the whole illusion being cast, is what attracted her to the town. So it had to have already been cast over Ralph, because we find out that Agatha's house is actually Ralph's in the first place. So I guess all in all, what I'm trying to say is, how was Agatha actually able to trick Wanda that it was Pietro. I mean, if I was a superhero and, you know, one of my loved ones died, and then I was in a fight with my spouse about, you know, whether or not what I was doing was right, and then some dude came to my door basically cosplaying as my loved one who died, I wouldn't be like, brother, and, you know, just embrace him. I'd be like, what the hell are you doing? How freaking disrespectful. Get the hell off my lawn. But anyway, we find out that the way that she's been controlling Ralph Boner was by a little necklace that looks like it was bought at some, you know, beach party shop. So is Evan Peters being in there any sort of hint at, you know, the future of the MCU? Who knows anymore? But I mean, oh well, what are you going to do? Hopefully they have something planned for him in the future, but we'll have to see. In the next scene, we find out that people in Westview, that, you know, they have all basically been tortured this entire time. And I mean, we did already know that, but we find out a whole slew of other things. We find out that basically, I mean, when they sleep, when she lets them sleep, they basically have her nightmares. Like, they feel her pain. I mean, Debra Jo Rupp even says, you know, that her grief is basically poisoning them. And, you know, really, they all just want to be let go. And, you know, all of this, you know, Wanda trying to take it in, it just freaks her out. She basically starts to choke everyone with, like, this weird magic band around everyone's necks. And then she kind of realizes, oh, wait, what am I doing? And kind of shakes it off. And Debra Jo Rupp's character is like, dude, if you're not going to let us go, just let us die, dude. Like, she'd rather die than be under that spell. That's how bad it actually is. Realizing this, Wanda says, you know, okay, I'll let you go. And she opens the hex to let them out. And while she does, of course, Sword takes the opportunity. And they're like, all right, well, let's get in there now while we still can. And, you know, because she's lifting the hex, of course, Vision starts to break apart. And at the worst possible time, right as, you know, him and White Vision are having a, like, laser lock, you know, the classic two beams meet in the middle kind of thing. And so he gets overpowered and blown down to the ground. But it made me wonder, just because, you know, I'm curious, what is White Vision's laser actually, you know, made of? Like, what you know, is it composed of? Because it's not coming from, you know, any sort of Mind Stone or anything like that. It's not really important, but it's just something I've been wondering. So it's here that, unfortunately, in times like these, I hate being right, because, of course, Wanda had to watch Vision and the kids start to, you know, break up and pixelate back into, you know, into nothing, because she realizes they can't exist without the hex. You know, with this whole thing there. I mean, I was wrong about them going back into Mephisto, but, you know, I knew she was going to have to watch them fade away again. But she realizes she wasn't ready to lose them yet, and she still needs their help. So she closes it temporarily, and she protects them from a huge blast that Agatha blows at them. But in doing so, Agatha is able to drain that much more magic out of her. And I mean, at this point, her hands start to look like almost frostbitten. You know, they're completely blackened from her losing all of her power. A lot like the witches in the last episode. But right after we see that, we actually finally get, you know, the epic family pose that we've been waiting for. Wanda, Vision, both the kids getting completely ready for battle. So we got Vision, he flies back, goes to take care of White Vision. We got Wanda, she goes, she fights Agatha, and then she tells the kids, y'all take care of the military. So first we see the fight between Vision and White Vision. And, you know, Vision asks the other, he says, you know, why are you doing this? And White Vision says, my prime directive is to take out the Vision. And Vision says, you know, but I'm not the Vision, I'm only a conditional Vision. And this gets inside White Vision's head. It starts to make him think. And he says, you know, well, hold on, I request elaboration. And, you know, regular Vision, his Mind Stone starts to kind of power down, and, you know, they're floating. You can tell they're about to, you know, kind of talk things out. But we don't get to see that yet, because this is when, you know, Wanda says, hey, take care of the military. She goes off to fight Agatha. And, dude, I just gotta say, I love the way, you know, she sits there and disappears. Like, I love how much she has grown into herself and her character. So when we see the boys, they're messing with the military. Basically how, you know, Pietro in X-Men in Days of Future Past, it took care of all those guys in that room. And Hayward goes from bad to straight up evil like that, and just steps out and decides, you know what, I'm just going to shoot the kids. Thankfully, Photon was there. You know, she steps in, blocks the bullets. You know, I mean, they basically go through her and then like kind of phase, and you know, it basically stops their momentum completely. And then Wiccan, he sits there and he stops a bullet and just kind of flicks it down. And you know, they both kind of look at each other. Oh, nice tricks. Oh, I like your tricks too. They're both quite impressed with each other. Then Hayward, he's like, ah, and he's like, well, I better get out of here. Tries to dip, and Darcy Lewis, we finally see where she went. You know, she's been sitting there in that truck all this time, and she just rams him into the side of this building and blocks his door from getting out, so that way he can't go nowhere until the police get there. So then we get to see what happens between Vision and White Vision, and regular Vision is describing to the other about the thought experiment of the ship of Theseus. And what that basically is a ship is an artifact in a museum. And once all the planks are, you know, rotted and replaced, is it still the same ship? And secondly, in that matter, if the original planks are restored and replaced without any of the rot, then is that the same ship? And they come to an agreement that both are the true ship and are not the true ship. And then they come to a realization that, you know, the rot represents the memories that they carry with them, and that it's not the planks, you know, it's the journey that was carried with Theseus. And so they discuss that, you know, White Vision doesn't have the Mind Stone, but regular Vision doesn't have an ounce of actual original material. And, you know, White Vision doesn't retain any memories, but he does have the data. And as a carbon-based synthezoid, he, you know, his memories aren't so easily wiped. So he lets Vision, regular Vision, basically like restore all of his backed up memory. And then we see, you know, he regains his memories. We see the little like chip thing go from blue to yellow for a split second. And then, of course, the eyes, I knew it was going to be a huge thing. His eyes, you know, they go from that weird icy blue back to the cyborg eyes that are Vision's original eyes. And, you know, they both kind of look at each other, and it's kind of this mirrored image moment, and they both kind of nod in agreement, and he says, I am Vision, and just bounces. So, is Vision back? Like, for good? Like, Vision is actually back, you know? I mean, whether he regains his color or not, you know, that's to be seen in the future, but for now, there is an actual physical Vision out there somewhere. So then we finally get to see the actual fight between Agatha and Wanda. And, you know, it starts off with a real cool moment where we finally see Wanda's super speed again, which we haven't seen since, I think, Age of Ultron. And I love it so much because her super speed, it's unique in the sense that it's not like, you know, Quicksilver's or Vision's where they just, you know, and kind of, you know, zoom to one spot or another. She has that, you know, kind of like twitchy super speed, like, you know, like a witch. It's, you know, it's real creepy and so great. But the reason she actually uses her super speed is to zip up behind Agatha and, you know, put her under the spell, just like she did to Tony and Cap and everybody else in Age of Ultron. And of course, what else would she bring her to other than the Salem event, where she originally, you know, basically turned fully evil. But unfortunately, Agatha turns it on Wanda. So Wanda ends up, you know, at the stake, and Agatha basically tries to make a deal with her and says, you know, I'll let you, you know, I'll fix your original spell. I'll let you keep Westview and everything, you know, if you give me your power, essentially. But instead, Wanda embraces herself, and she embraces the Scarlet Witch, and she just pushes her out of it, man. It's so awesome. She embraces completely who she is, and, you know, starts to love herself. Her accent comes back, and she, you know, basically flies up, starts blasting Agatha, says, you can have the power. I don't want it anymore. And Vision goes up and tries to stop her, but she holds him back. And he's like, what are you doing? But she knows what she's doing, and so she starts blasting away at Agatha. And there's a few times where it seems like she's missing, and you start to think maybe she's just, you know, that worn out from being so drained that she's, you know, not making her shot. That's not the case. Because the second that Agatha thinks, that she's drained all of her power and that she's gotten the powers of the Scarlet Witch, she basically just straight up tries to go back on her deal and says, a spell, if it's broken, it's broken. Can't do anything for you. Sorry. And she, tries to take Wanda out, and we see that she can't use her magic. It's just kind of gone. And then we find out that the reason is she wasn't missing at all. She was creating runes all around the hex. The camera pans over and reveals behind Wanda that, she's got the hex there, she's got a hex there. It shows she's got a hex all around. And we know from the last episode that in a given area, only the witch who casts the runes can use her magic. So Wanda pretty much thanks Agatha for the lesson, and she says, but I don't need you to tell me who I am. And we see the crown start to form around her, and she just drains all of Agatha's power. Even Agatha's magic, that she originally had before she drained Scarlet Witches. She just takes it all. And as she does this, we see that the proper Scarlet Witch costume that was teased in the last episode, the full crown and everything, is actually, manifested and formed around her. It is such a satisfying scene. It's so sick. But everything's not so great about it because apparently, Agatha says, you don't know. You have no idea what you just did. And Wanda, after bringing her down to the ground, basically says, I'm just going to keep you here, and, I'm going to put you under the spell and give you the role that you picked, the nosy neighbor. And Agatha is, she's not happy with that. She says, you've unleashed something insane. You don't know what you've unleashed. You're going to need me. And Wanda pretty much just says, if I do, I'll know where to find you, and puts her under the spell. And one thing, small detail I really loved in this scene was Kathryn Hahn. Actually, it looks like she's about to just break out into tears right after she gets put under the spell. But, she can't really control herself, and she's supposed to be happy and, all peachy keen. So then the family heads home, and, they start to get ready for what inevitably is going to come because, Wanda doesn't want to keep everyone under the spell anymore. She doesn't want to hurt anyone anymore. And so we get to see them, tuck the kids in and basically say goodbye. And it is super heart-wrenching. Definitely made me cry both times I watched it. But then we see Wanda and Vision, they go downstairs and they basically just try to embrace each other as they see the hex kind of close in on them. And it's here that we actually finally find out what this version of Vision actually is. It turns out he is actually a part of the Mind Stone that lives inside Wanda. And so she did essentially drain power from the Mind Stone when she, was killing him, and then redirected that into manifesting him in Westview. But, unfortunately, they have to say their goodbyes, and, he says, we've said goodbye before. It stands to reason that, we'll get to say hello again, and it's super, super sad. We see a tear actually roll down his face. Another reference to the "An Android Can Cry" moment from the comics. Man, I love this scene, but and I totally called that it was going to happen, so, I was right, but I hate it so much. It's so heart-wrenching that she had to watch him go and lose him a third time. Dude. Just sucks, man. She's gone through so much loss. She has got to be one of the most, heart-wrenched characters in the entire MCU. But, after this, Wanda basically, she puts her hood up. You can tell she's basically mourning her family, grieving again. And she kind of walks through the town. She's got her head down, kind of, looking at people. People are, giving her dirty looks. People hate her now. And, Monica tries to kind of relate to her, and, she says, I get it. And, she says, people won't ever get, what you sacrificed for them. And, she said, it won't change the way they see me. And Monica says, I get it. If I were in your place and I had the same powers, I'd bring back my mom. I think anybody really would. And, Wanda says just one more time for the record, she is sorry for all of the pain she's caused, and she doesn't know this power, but she wants to learn. She's going to study and try to get better. And so with that, she, throws back on her outfit, manifests it again, and this time it's got a hood and like a cloak. It looks so good. And she flies away and basically says goodbye to Westview. And that's the end. We do get 2 post-credit scenes, but as for the show, that's pretty much all we get. We do see that one of the post-credit scenes, Monica actually, she's getting called up to the actual space station that's run by S.W.O.R.D. by the Skrulls. But it's the second one that's actually a lot more important. We see that, in isolation in a house kind of just off in the middle of nowhere where no one can find her, Wanda is waiting and she's studying and trying to, learn her power and get better. And she is actually using her astral form to study the Darkhold while she's, going about her day, making tea, whatever, just like Doctor Strange was when he was studying all his magic. And we see that while she's doing this, she actually hears Tommy and Billy screaming out for help to her. And so this raises the question of, where are they? Are they in the astral realm? Are they in another dimension calling out to her? Or what I believe, are they trapped in the Nexus, which is basically the gateway between all of the realms? Because what I think is that when, when the Hex closed in and they were supposed to, kind of go off into the nether, into space, I guess, I don't know, they basically would have gotten trapped in between whatever worlds, and they're trying to, get back and get Wanda's help. And I think that her going to, unlock the Nexus, to open the multiverse, is probably what's going to bring it all to Doctor Strange's attention and kind of kick off the events of the Multiverse of Madness. But alright guys, that's the show. For the finale, I really enjoyed it. Overall, I loved the episode. I loved all of the payoffs we got. I loved the battles. I loved pretty much every bit of it. The only disappointment that I have more than anything over all of it, the Ralph Boner thing, it's a bit of an insult, but the biggest issue I have is that Paul Bettany has been teasing a cameo this whole time, and it's been like this whole big thing about an actor that he's excited to work with, and I get the whole troll of it that he's talking about himself, it was a big joke, but like a lot of people, myself included, had high hopes, and we were all very hyped for the show as is. Nobody had to say anything like that, and we would have all watched it and loved it and enjoyed the hell out of it just as we did. But when you do something like that, when you tell somebody, there's going to be something big, there's going to be some huge thing at the end that's going to blow all of your minds, and then none of that happens, and it's just this lackluster reveal of, it's just yourself. Don't get me wrong, White Vision was an awesome reveal, Agatha was an awesome reveal, but Agatha, everybody already knew. Everybody called that from the first episode. And with White Vision, it was like, okay, that's an awesome reveal, but that is, you still are expecting the cameo because he said another actor he's been wanting to work with. So it's like, okay, so who's going to show up in this final episode? And when no one does, can't help but feel a little bit gypped. Other than that, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed the show. I enjoyed the entire, series as a whole. It's a Wanda and Vision story through and through. And I really did. I loved the way they ended it. I just think that they tried to drive our hype way through the roof too hard when it was already, at its breaking point. But overall, the show, it was awesome. Of course, go watch it. If you've watched my videos without watching the show first, I don't know what you're doing. But either way, you should go check it out. It's a great show. It's got a ton of awesome, setups and payoffs. Just, don't go into it expecting some crazy stuff that, might not show up. Mephisto not showing up, Mr. Fantastic not showing up, all of that, it's fine. Just, as long as, someone doesn't tell you that there's gonna be something like that, and then it doesn't ever happen. But I am super excited to see what this means for the future of the MCU and where it goes and how it's all going to tie into Doctor Strange too. I can't wait to see, you know, what we're going to get with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You know, that's right around the corner. So, I mean, you know, we got a lot of stuff incoming with the MCU. The drought is definitely over, guys. So make sure that you subscribe, hit that notification bell, because I'm going to be trying to cover as much of it as I possibly can. Don't forget to share this with one of your friends, you know, share with somebody who might like this, you know, MCU kind of stuff, the breakdowns, the Easter eggs, all that good stuff. Let's get some theories going in the comments. I want to know, you know, what do you guys think of this show? How'd y'all think, you know, what the end was going to go? How did it end up, you know, being different? What do you guys think about the finale as a whole? I mean, did y'all enjoy it? Were y'all disappointed? Let me know. But that's going to be it for me, guys. I really enjoyed this. You know, I definitely will be planning on doing stuff in the future, other shows. Like I said, I want to definitely do Falcon and the Winter Soldier and stuff like that. I really appreciate you guys being on this ride with me. I appreciate y'all watching as always. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope y'all enjoyed, you know, this new format, the background and everything I'm trying out, all that stuff. We're just going to kind of see how it goes. But aside from that, hope y'all enjoyed everything. I hope y'all have a spectacular day.